This is lesson 15-1, equations with more than one operation. Our essential question, how can you solve equations with more than one operation? And this picture walks you through the steps in doing that. There's no vocab for this lesson. Okay, example number 1. So we've talked about solving equations. You know you have to use the inverse or the opposite operation so we can get the variable by itself. So when we have more than one operation, we're just going to be doing a few things. So first, let's talk about our equation. We have x over 4 minus 5 equals 19. So obviously x over 4 is the part that has the variable, and that's going to be where we need to get x by itself. But also we have the minus 5 this time, where before we wouldn't have had that. So when we solve, we want to get rid of the one that is not next to the variable first, because that's going to be easiest to get rid of. So we have a minus 5. So the opposite of subtracting is addition. So we're going to be adding 5 to both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. On this side, it's going to cross itself out because they're opposites. Now, we're going to be left with x over 4 on one side. And on this side, we're just going to add like it says to do. So 19 plus 5 is 24. But we're not quite finished because we still need to get x by itself. Now, we have a fraction, x over 4. Now, remember when we have fraction, we talked about this. It is actually a division problem. It would be written like this, x divided by 4. Remember that lesson back when we were talking about fractions. So if this is a division problem, the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to be multiplying by 4 on both sides. Now this side is going to cancel itself out because division and multiplication are opposites of each other. And we're just going to be left with x because we can't get rid of the variable. And then on the other side, we're going to multiply 24 times 4, which is 96. So our answer is x equals 96. Example number 2, we have 20d minus 15 equals 65. Remember, we want to get rid of the one that is not next to the variable. So we have a minus 15. Anything that is on the side, the same side of the equation with the variable, needs to be kind of gotten rid of. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're doing the opposites. So that's why I'm getting rid of, right now, the 15. So it's a minus 15. The opposite of that would be adding 15. It's going to cross out on that side. So I'm going to be left with 20d equals, and 65 plus 15 is 80. Now I have my last step because I still have to get d by itself. And when you have a number and a letter together like this, it means multiplication. We've talked about that. So the opposite of multiplication is going to be division. So we're going to be dividing by 20 on both sides. This side crosses itself out and we're just left with the d. And 80 divided by 20 is 4. So d equals 4 is our answer. Example 3. So we have 4x plus 5. So we're trying to get rid of everything that's on the same side as the x equals 17. So we'll start with the plus 5. So the opposite would be subtracting 5. This side crosses itself out, and we're left with 4x. And 17 minus 5 equals 12. Now our last step is to get x by itself. We have a multiplication. 4x means multiplication, so we have to divide by 4. This side crosses itself out, and we're just left with x. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. So x equals 3. And our last example, we have some decimals. So you have to remember what your decimal operations are. We have 5x minus 3 8/10 equals 6 7/10. So we're going to get rid of the 3 8/10 first. It's a subtraction problem, so we have to add 3 8/10 to both sides. This side crosses itself out, and we're left with 5x. And when you add decimals, you have to line those decimals up, and luckily they are already lined up. And then we just bring it straight down, and we add like normal. So we're left with 10 5/10. Now the last step is to get x by itself, so we're going to be dividing by 5 because that is the opposite of multiplication. This side crosses itself out, so we're left with x. And now let's divide 10 5/10 divided by 5. We bring that decimal straight up. 5 goes into 10 2 times with 0 left over. Bring down the 5. And 5 goes into 5 one time evenly. So we have x equals 2 1/10. You have your 3 practice problems. Don't forget a word problem or a question, and rate your understanding.